The movie begins with Jill, a female security guard, stealing drugs from a research laboratory. The next day, she sells the stolen drugs to a buyer. After completing the deal, Jill picks up her children, Matilda and Noah, who have been cared for by their grandmother, Doris. While driving home, all the car engines suddenly fail, causing their vehicle to lose control. Another car, also with a dead engine, appears out of nowhere, forcing Jill's car into a lake. As water begins to flood the vehicle, Jill and her family struggle to unbuckle their seatbelts. They manage to escape and surface just before the car sinks, but Matilda is missing. It turns out that 2 sheriffs on the riverbank rescued Matilda. The sheriffs explain that the entire city has experienced a power outage, with all vehicles suddenly stalling. Later, at the hospital, chaos unfolds as a surge of patients arrives due to the strange incident. Unfortunately, the hospital equipment is non-functional. People begin to speculate that the city might be under a terrorist attack. While treating her wounds, Jill hears a woman screaming. She investigates and is shocked to find that all the coma patients in a room have woken up simultaneously. After leaving the hospital, Jill and her family return home. That night, Jill prepares to sleep but discovers something unusual. No one, including her, can fall asleep. Looking outside, they see others exhibiting the same symptoms. However, Matilda is unaffected and sleeps peacefully. Jill notices Noah staring at the night sky, where he sees numerous shooting stars that turn out to be satellites falling from orbit. The next day, Jill notices the city in turmoil as people struggle with sleep deprivation. On her way to work, the man who bought the stolen drugs stops her, demanding sleeping pills. At work, Jill attempts to steal drugs again but is caught by a soldier. Her friend, Dr. Murphy, intervenes, claiming she knows Jill. Dr. Murphy, who is working with soldiers to retrieve research files, invites Jill to join her in the search for a cure, but Jill refuses. A man named Brian explains that people can no longer sleep and will soon suffer severe symptoms of insomnia. He reveals that an elderly woman can still sleep, and they are searching for her in hopes of discovering a cure. Jill suddenly remembers that Matilda can also sleep and rushes home. However, upon arriving, she panics when she cannot find Matilda. Noah reveals that Matilda went to church with Doris. As Jill and Noah head to the church, Brian arrives, demanding Matilda be handed over to the research center. Jill refuses, unwilling to risk her daughter's safety. On their way, they witness chaos in the streets, with people succumbing to violent outbursts caused by sleep deprivation. In a narrow alley, they see evidence of horrific deaths from fights among the emotionally unstable. At the church, the pastor delivers a sermon, urging people not to lose hope. However, tensions rise when someone suggests sacrificing Matilda, believing it could save everyone. Jill, Noah, and Brian arrive, but a commotion breaks out as people fight over Matilda. In the chaos, Brian is shot by a police officer who opposes taking Matilda. Terrified, Matilda hides, and everyone begins searching for her. Jill finds Matilda first, and they flee into the forest, leaving Doris behind. Tensions rise between Jill and Noah, who believes Matilda should be taken to the research center to find a cure. Reluctantly, Jill agrees and searches for an old car without electronic systems to avoid the power outage's effects. Arriving at a garage, Jill discovers the owner's lifeless body, having been killed by 2 robbers. The robbers, busy repairing a car, are startled by the sound of a military vehicle passing by. Spotting the soldiers' supplies and drugs, the robbers decide to follow them, intent on theft. Seizing the opportunity, Jill takes the robbers' car and picks up Matilda and Noah. Later that night, they stop after spotting a car with a corpse beside it. Upon investigation, Jill realizes it's one of the robbers from the garage. He was likely shot while attempting to rob the soldiers. Jill retrieves the robber's weapon for protection. Exhausted, the group rests. During this time, Jill confides in Noah, explaining her reluctance to take Matilda to Dr. Murphy. She reveals that Dr. Murphy is a ruthless psychiatrist willing to do anything for answers, even at the cost of others' lives. The next day, they continue their journey. Along the way, they encounter a group of naked individuals proclaiming the apocalypse. They stop at a library to find a map. While searching, Jill tries to teach Matilda how to shoot, preparing her for survival. Matilda refuses, which angers Jill, leading her to fire a warning shot into a book. Unbeknownst to her, Noah is standing behind the shelf. Startled, Noah confronts Jill, who apologizes, admitting she thought he was in the car. As they plan their route, a convict steals their car with Matilda asleep inside. Jill and Noah chase him but are intercepted by a group of escaped prisoners. Jill fires a warning shot, but it's ignored. Suddenly, the car thief returns, urging them to get in the car. Introducing himself as Dodge, the thief explains he's headed north in search of safety. After taking the gun from Jill and realizing it's empty, Dodge decides to cooperate and returns the gun as a gesture of trust. Later, they discover the wreckage of a plane and scavenge for supplies. Jill teaches Matilda how to siphon gasoline, believing the children need to learn survival skills. Meanwhile, Noah reveals their destination, Lewisburg, North Carolina, a rumored research site working on a cure. Agreeing to a shared goal, the group continues together. That night, Jill teaches Matilda how to drive, knowing she's the only one with enough energy to take over when others succumb to sleep deprivation. Suddenly, they are ambushed by a group of desperate people. Jill takes the wheel, speeding away to safety. Finally, they spot the glowing lights of the research facility. Jill decides to approach the facility alone to ensure it's safe, leaving Dodge and her children behind. Inside, she sees soldiers injecting themselves with an unknown substance. Disguising herself as a doctor, she infiltrates the facility and discovers the elderly woman who can still sleep. The woman, in frail condition, tells Jill she should have died months ago. Jill pleads with her to care for Matilda, believing there's no hope for a cure. Dr. Murphy arrives, catching Jill off guard. Jill feigns ignorance about Brian's fate and asks about the research. Dr. Murphy reveals they've developed a drug to temporarily sustain brain function but with severe side effects, including nerve damage. Frustrated and disillusioned, Jill steps outside and notices a flare shot into the sky. Moments later, Dodge arrives with Matilda and Noah, inadvertently exposing Matilda to the soldiers. When Matilda cries and admits she can still sleep, the soldiers take her for examination. Jill is detained and begins experiencing severe delirium from sleep deprivation. The next day, Matilda offers to help. The researchers discover Matilda's unique resistance to the condition and test her under anesthesia. Unlike others, Matilda successfully falls asleep. Dr. Murphy, elated, sees this as a breakthrough and a glimmer of hope for humanity. Matilda notices chimpanzees being tested in the lab. The doctor explains that, like humans, chimpanzees cannot sleep under the mysterious condition due to genetic similarities. Using this insight, the researchers sedate Matilda, confirming her immunity. Meanwhile, Jill's condition deteriorates as she succumbs to confusion and unconsciousness, leaving her children's fate and the world's survival hinging on Matilda's extraordinary ability. Dr. Murphy questions why Matilda is still able to sleep, a mystery that holds the key to solving humanity's crisis. Jill pleads with Murphy to let Matilda go, but Murphy refuses, arguing that Matilda's unique ability could be humanity's last hope. Meanwhile, the soldiers, along with the researchers, recruit Dodge as an additional guard. To keep him awake, they inject him with a stimulant. In the research room, the elderly woman who could sleep suffers heart failure and dies, leaving the researchers in despair. Jill, severely sleep-deprived, begins to hallucinate. She sees Noah threatening her, but in reality, Noah wants to be taken to the research room to compare his brain with Matilda's. As the week without sleep stretches on, chaos ensues. Soldiers and researchers begin to experience severe hallucinations. Believing they are under attack, the soldiers turn on one another, leading to a bloody shootout. Amid the chaos, Jill manages to escape her confinement and rushes to the research room to free Matilda. Jill and Matilda find Noah in the grip of his own hallucinations. Believing he is gutting a fish, Noah is actually cutting through a live cable. The resulting shock throws him backward, rendering him unconscious. Matilda quickly retrieves a defibrillator and uses it to restart Noah's heart. The powerful jolt of energy throws Jill and Matilda back, leaving Matilda temporarily unconscious. The next day, Noah awakens and recounts a dream he had while unconscious. He apologizes to Jill, agreeing that they should never have come to the research facility. Meanwhile, Matilda, pushing a trolley, trips over something on the ground. Upon inspection, she finds a medal and remembers the sheriff who saved her at the lake. The memory triggers a revelation for Matilda. She rushes to Noah and explains her theory. They are among the few who have died and been revived. Matilda recalls her near-death experience in the lake when the sheriff resuscitated her, and Noah had similarly been revived after his heart stopped. Their brief moments of clinical death may be why they are now immune to the global sleep crisis. With renewed hope, Matilda and Noah come up with a daring plan. They take Jill to the lake, intending to replicate the process. They hold Jill underwater until she stops breathing, then drag her to shore and perform chest compressions to restart her heart. In the climactic final scene, Jill gasps for air, reviving and showing signs of mental clarity. Her breathing stabilizes, and she embraces her children as they realize they may have found the key to saving humanity. The movie ends with a glimmer of hope, leaving viewers to ponder the mysteries of life, death, and survival.